Good morning to all. Once again, I welcome you all to the 1 week short-term training program on computer networks. Now, I welcome Mrs. R. Kaleshilvi ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, to give the introduction about the chief guest of today's session. Welcome, ma'am.
Now, I introduced our chief guest, Mr. Kannan, BTech ME PhD. He completed BTech Information Technology from Arasu Engineering College Kumbakonam. He did his ME Computer Science Engineering from Annam University of Technology, Tiruchirappalli. He pursuing research work in area of machine learning with a cloud-based IoT at Annamalai University, Chidambaram. He is having 9 years of experience as teaching as assistant professor in Arasu Engineering College Kumbakonam. He worked as a research assistant in post-project evaluation of Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana under the University of Mysuru and Ministry of Rural Development, New Delhi. Being as Executive Director of Divim Solutions Research and Development Center. He expertised in the area of image processing using MATLAB, data analytics using Python and R, wireless networks using NS2. Having the skill set of WPF and MVC, architecture using C#, Android app development using J2ME and Python. Having the copyrights of enterprise applications for academic and trade center management. As a corporate trainer, hands-on training given in an assortment of technologies as said in the skill set for various colleges. Thank you. I hand over the session to the resource person, Mr. M. Kannan, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Uh,
So thank you so much to Mrs. Kaleshilvi, ma'am. I regret, good morning to one and all first. I regret for this delay. I welcome you one and all to this 1 week short-term program last day. The session is application layer protocols, but time is up. We need to complete as much as possible. Okay, then we start into the application layer first. And yes, application layer in OSI. What it means, application layer. Here the actual communication of networks insists and reflects. That means user can able to retrieve or send the data to the network or another person through this layer itself. This is nothing but user interface layer in networks. User needs to communicate through this layer protocol to peer and something we may discuss by means of this diagram. First, allies want to send a data to the bow. We need to send the data by means of interacting with the application to this application layer. And the application layer hand over all the data to the other layers in the network. Then other layer of parent network captures the data and sends to the application layer. Then application layer transfers the data to the bow. This is nothing but application layer works. That's why we discussed in here that user needs to communicate through this layer protocol to parent application layer protocol. The data handover to the transport layer does with the help of all layers. So this is application layer. Here, user interaction layer may divide into two types of applications, two means of applications. So first one is client-server architecture and another one is web-based architecture. So you know well about the client-server architecture. In a LAN network, this is the desktop applications. And the second one is web-based architecture. That means the user can able to connect with the network by means of web-based applications, maybe web applications like sites and web services, etc. So now we are going to take these two categories and explain it clearly. The first one is client-server architecture. So client-server architecture, the server going to respond to the clients. The centralized system can be used. It is deployed, providing response over the network medium from the clients. Sometimes peer-to-peer applications are there. There is no client, no server. Everything acts as client, everything acts as server. Can able to send can able to send the request, can able to send the response to the each and every systems. Some of the communication ways we discussed in the client server architecture. The first one is remote procedure calls, sockets, and telnet applications. What is a remote procedure call? We need to discuss this thing in a clear way because remote procedure is nothing but a method. That means a unit of managed code is particularly defined and revoked when it requires. That is procedure. A program which include with the procedure means it may be called with the data, and maybe the program maybe contains the functions, they may call from the main function like that. And another program maybe the file may be defined as two files. The program may defined with the two files, one having the main function, one having the sub functions. We need to create classes for the functions. We can able to get from the data, revoke the functions in the second file. This is nothing but a file invoking in the another file, sorry, a function invoking from the another file. And this is second one. The third one is we are going to call a function in a remote server. We are going to define a function in a remote server, and we are going to call the function from the client system. That is nothing but remote procedure call. The another one thing is that uh, the function may defined and deployed in the web server. It can be called by means of web clients. It is called web services. We may discuss about it later. The first one is telnet application. What is a telnet application? Telnet application, you are all well know about that telnet applications. Telnet application is used to connect with the remote server from the application as client system. This is telnet is nothing but a client system. It can able to communicate with the network through means of TCP protocol by means of to the remote server. The telnet terminal in client system may connects to the telnet terminal at the server end. We need to install the terminal at client system, both in the server system. We are going to communicate with the system by means of sending the request to make some executions about the applications installed in the remote, and it perform the execution and send the response to the client. This is nothing but telnet application. The negotiation commands are do, will, won't, don't. Do is nothing but we are going to accept the connection means do, will do, going to enable the work option means will, won't, it should not give acknowledgement is nothing but won't, don't is nothing but we need to disable the option means don't. These are the commands used for that telnet applications. And we may move to the sockets. Sockets are main thing used in the LAN networks, used for TCP and TCP IP protocols. Sockets are used to make client server communications. This approach, server socket and client socket are defined. Server socket may be created with the port number and wait for client request comes. It starts listening to client request. Second process, the second, then the client can enable the socket and give the request to the server by means of the server IP address. Then the server binds the networks, accepts the socket connection, and binds the client to the network. This is nothing but socket. We may discuss in this. Here I'm going to discuss with .NET programming, C# .NET programming, application development using C# for client server architecture. We need to first assign the namespace to that program using system.net or sockets is a program namespace for this program. The two categories are discussed here. The first one is client program, second one is server program. In this client program, the TCP client socket, the new TCP client, we need to create an object for a TCP client, and we are going to create a connect statement with the IP address and port number. 8080 is well-known port for Google. And TCP listener server program. Already I told that first we need to start our listener here. TCP listener, that the listener object can be created with the port number. Then here the client socket also created. The server socket is start listening. After that, when the client socket connect function is enabled, then the accept TCP client function has been invoked. It can be used for connecting the client with the networks. That is the program discussed here, socket programming. And we may move to the next um, topic, web-based applications. Here we are discussed about the desktop applications. Now we are going to the web-based applications, World Wide Web, and email applications and web services. World Wide Web is you are all well known about that. They having three protocols are there: HTTP, and FTP, and DNS. Some more protocols are there. We discussed the familiar one itself. The email applications SMTP, MIME, and POP3 email protocols are there. And web services can be run through the means of simple object access protocol. We will move to the World Wide Web. Here, World Wide Web is nothing but we are going to get some responses from the web server through the connection made from the clients using web browsers. Web browsers can able to create the connection to the web servers. We need to create HTML or XML pages, and we need to crawl or retrieve the data from the web servers by means of web browsers. Web browser is a tool used to connect with the web browsers. Web service. A web program can be connected, able to connect to the web server using the URLs. The URL is defined here, uniform resource locator. That is protocol. First, we need to enter the protocol // and we need to enter the port host name and port number and then path. So here the example is given below: http://www.aec.org.in : is nothing but host name, and :123 is port number. Port number of the server is optional, no need to give. So all the next other the things are the paths for the path files displayed and deployed in the server. This is nothing but URL for the World Wide Web. And what is the difference between www1 www? Maybe the number is added to the end. This is nothing but www1 and www2 are host names or subdomains. This is closely related websites or used this subdomains for making a mirror like that applications. So nothing but www1 and www2. Next, we move for the HTTP. HTTP, the World Wide Web using this protocol HTTP. The web content from the www can be retrieved from the HTTP protocol itself. It can able to transfer the plain text and multimedia contents from the web service. We are going to communicate by means of these web servers itself, and it associated with the URL for sending the request. HTTPS is nothing but secure mechanism of web content utilization. We are going to connect to the web server by means of secure mechanism. Here the graphical representation explains HTTP versus HTTPS. Helen going to connect with the server by means of http://www.example.com. Here the password is ABC123. The password can be hacked by the everyone because there is no password encryption is there, because there is only HTTP protocol is used. But Carol used HTTPS for connecting www.example.com. This is by means by sending another way of request to the server. Here, the password has been encrypted. Hacker cannot able to see the original password of Carol. So this is used for HTTPS. Clearly, it can be explained in this slide. The HTTPS can be done through means of SSL connection, secure socket layer connection. Here, your visitor, the client, and the server can communicate with the by means of the some more password. This password can be that the data or information can be vulnerable to the message forgery, data theft, and eavesdropping, etc. But we may use SSL means it acts as a secure shield for these vulnerables like that message forgery and theft and eavesdropping. We can use the web server by means of very secure environment. And we are going for the file transfer protocol. The protocol used for transferring the data, web server retrieving from it, and directly listing. HTTP and FTP is more or less same. They are using TCP control, but can able to only FTP can able to get The data, what are the data are there, then how we can store or retrieve the data. That the thing is FTP. When FTP session is started between a client and server, the client initiates the control TCP connection to the server side, and then server receives the connection, the data connection to the client side. The control remains active throughout the user session. This is nothing. This is in FTP, but in HTTP, this is stateless. We can't able to track our user state, but we can able to track our state of the user throughout the session in the FTP protocol. And this is example for active. There are two FTPs are there. One is active and passive FTP. Likewise, we discussed we need to connect with the port number. So a client going to connect the server by means of the client port is 1024, the server port is 21. Then the server, if it is in active FTP, the server sends back the data to the client by means of the another port 20. But in passive FTP, there is no port for server end. So only client can connect to the server by means of 1024 to port number 21. It cannot be acknowledged with the data to the FTP. This is nothing but a passive FTP protocol. Here, as like a secure socket layer in HTTP protocol, here also FTP versus SFTP are also there. Secure file transfer protocol. A user can send the data to the server by means of internet. It will be encrypted and makes a secure text. Then the secure text pass through the network line, and then it can be decrypted as plain text. Then it goes to the website server. This is used technique in the secure file transfer protocol. Next, we may go to the simple mail transfer protocol. Here we are saying about we are communicating with the web server by means of retrieving some data. We are sending the request to the web server and retrieving or crawling the data from the web server. These are the things that takes place. But here, a simple mail transfer protocol can able to communicate with the other persons by means of internet through the electronic mail. The user one who wants to send the mail opens a TCP connection. We need to create a TCP connection for SMTP server too. We need to create a TCP connection to the SMTP server. Then he sends the mail to the connection. Then the SMTP server is always in the reselling mode. In TCP, for example, in client server architecture, when we start our server means it will goes to the listening mode. But SMTP server is always in listening mode, and it listens any connection with any connections coming from client, and it initiates a client to connection to the port 25. We are using the port number 25 here, and FTP using the port numbers 21 and 20. Here using the port 25, we may discuss the program too. And after successfully establishing the TCP connection, the client process can be sends the mail to the another client instantly. And we may go to the diagrammatic representation of the SMTP. The user can connect with the internet to sending mail by means of SMTP client. The user can send the mail to the SMTP client that can be received and transferred to the another user by means of SMTP server. The SMTP client and server having two major components are there. There are the first one is the user agent. The next one is mail transfer agent. These are the main two components used in this SMTP client and server. And MTA relay is nothing but MTA is a gateway for a mail transfer protocol. It's act as a gateway. Now the user agent and the MTA can be discussed with the program now. SMTP mail services in C#. We need to create the namespace here using system.net.mail, which is used for the mail transferring. There are two agents are there. First one is user agent. Here, mail message is a class. Here, going to create a mail as object. Need to add these properties to the user agent. The user agent needs these data to send a mail. So user needs to address and from address and subject and what is the body of the message. These are the details are required from the user agent. And then the mail transfer agent needs the interconnection details of the SMTP client. SMTP client need to connect with the host with the name of smtp.gmail.com, which is used for the Gmail account. We can create application with this code itself to send a mail. Then SMTP needs a credentials because we are going to send a mail from our application. So it needs mail sender ID and password to enable the connection in open. And we need to create the connection with the port number. Already I discussed SMTP having the port number 25. We need to create by means of the port number, and SMTP dot enable SSL is equal to true. Then we can obtain the secure mail transfer here. So by means of this code. So this is the code used for transferring the mail from one client to another client. We can create an application by means of this code itself. See, it is very useful to sending a mail from an application like that. Then web services. What is my web services? I think I'm urging the um, classes today because we have faced a lot of technical issues. That's why we are urging the classes, and we need to complete our classes as soon as possible. That's why we are urging. So if any queries, we may discuss with the WhatsApp or mail, etc. So in later, and now we are going for the web services. First thing, already I told that unit of managed code is nothing but function or a procedure. It can be revoked at required time. We discussed earlier. If the function is placed in a remote server, we can call from the client means it's nothing but remote method invocation or remote procedure calls. If the method is placed, if our required method is placed in the deployed in the web server means it is called as web services. When the requirement of functionalities, we may call from the web services that the deployed in the web service. And the web services can be deployed by means of XML based information exchange systems that use the internet for direct application to application interactions. That web services are defined by means of WSDL. WSDL is a language preferably for creating web services even in a Java or C# platforms, and SOAP is a protocol used to communicate with the web services. We may discuss with the diagram. Our service requester going to connect to the service provider. Service provider is nothing but a service provider which capable of having all the services and listening the requests, and if any request comes for the service, it do the functionalities and send the request response to the service requester. So we can able to connect with the service provider by means of SOAP protocol. Then UDDA is nothing but Universal Data Discovery Integration. It is a service registry. If the search history of the services can be stored in the UDDA, this using the SOAP protocol. Then also we are having the ability to do the web services, and it can be published to the UDDA by means of WSDL language for further purposes. And so thank you all. Today's session is very short. We know about that. Um, if anything, it can be discussed with the mail or WhatsApps, etc. Thank you so much for your kind cooperation, and we are going to end the session. The feedback link will be given to the WhatsApp groups, and it will be easy, and you can get the certificates from the feedback links. Now, I request our faculty member to give the vote of thanks.
Oh.
Yes, sir. Yes. Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Computer Science and Engineering Department, I would like to thank the management, Principal Sir, Vice Principal Ma'am, and Dean Academic Sir for their guidance and support to make this 1 week online short-term training program a grand success. I take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to the resource person of daily session, Dr. Kalaimani Shanmugam, Professor and HOD Department of CSE, Mr. V. Kovendan, Assistant Professor CSE, Mr. M. Anandakumar, Assistant Professor CSE, Mr. S. Dilip Kumar, Assistant Professor CSE, Mr. M. Kannan, Assistant Professor CSE, who gave excellent presentation on computer networks. It was so informative and useful to all the participants of this program. I would also thank all the faculty members of CSE department, both teaching and non-teaching, for their support and encouragement to make this kind of short-term training program a grand success. Finally, I thank all the participants who attend this session. After the session completes, you will be receiving a feedback link for this session. Once, if you submit the feedback form, you will receive e-certificates immediately. Kindly wait for a while to know updates on WhatsApp. Thank you. Dear participants, we will send the feedback link in all WhatsApp group. Kindly exit from the Zoom. We will provide the feedback link on the WhatsApp group. Thank you.